So you just get B-roll.
I didn't know if you were gonna like go. I didn't know if you were gonna say anything else. I didn't want to move.
Okay, great.
If I take my shirt off, is that weird?
I don't think so.
You sure? Yeah. Boom. Lunchtime?
Yeah.
Okay.
We are back on the van build this week. We are going to give you a little recap of what we did previously. Now our goal over the next couple weekends is to get the subflooring in and the wall insulation started, as well as the wheel wells boxed out. Hopefully we don't run into too many problems and everything goes well. So let's get into it.
Okay, so last time we were working on the build, we got the furring strips in, which we screwed with self-drilling screws to the floor. We cut out the polyiso. We used spray foam to fill any gaps and also to adhere these to the ground. Now we have to get the actual plywood. We're using 1/2 inch Baltic birch to actually complete the subfloor.
So before we measure out the subfloor and lay the subfloor, we need to seal up these gaps with reflective tape, and this will create a vapor barrier from what we've heard.
So while Darian is finishing up the reflective tape on the floor, I am measuring out these wheel wells with this just tracing paper, so we can get some measurements to use it as a template on the core board. We do have a couple tracing tools to get some of the curvature of the wheel wells traced out, which has came in handy so far. But yeah, that's what I'm working on. Got our stencil completed for the wheel wells for each of the pieces of plywood that are going to be going down. Started out on this just like stencil scratch paper. Through a lot of trial and error, we got the measurements, the shapes of everything, and then once it fit exactly where we wanted it to fit and all the different curvatures of the van, we then traced it out onto this piece of cardboard, something that's a little less malleable, to make sure it goes into all these corners good without being bent up or anything. And it looks like it fits pretty dang good. I'm actually really happy with how well it's fitting. So we're going to use the stencil to then put on the Baltic birch plywood, and then we'll be able to start mounting it down to these furring strips.
This is our subfloor.
Well, not the whole thing, but we got it fitting pretty nicely. I'm actually pretty happy with it.
Yes.
Around all the curvatures and the wheel well. Like a glove.
Good job, babe. It is day 2. We are finishing up the subfloor. Just a couple things. We ended up going to Home Depot and getting a circular saw. It has been super clutch in getting all of our cuts really nice and straight for the subfloor. These tools also come in super handy. They're curvature tools. And then tracing pencils have also been like really amazing to get these lines as straight as possible. For the floor, we ended up using 3 sheets of birch plywood. We put 2 long ways, and then our other one is going that way. These are too wide to use exact length, so we ended up having to cut each one to fit perfectly down the middle, and we will screw these down as well. The length of the birch plywood and then the width of this piece did not cover the full entirety of the van. So we are using an extra piece that we have to get this filled in as well at the top of the van. We're using tracing paper, our curvature tool to get around the corners to get that traced out.
Boom. Lunchtime?
Yeah.
Lunchtime.
I think a lot of people do ask, like, how do you learn this? Where do you even start? You really just have to be crazy enough to give it a go. So you don't need to know how to be a plumber or an electrician, but if you're willing to take some risks and make some mistakes, you'll be able to figure it out.
We got our subfloor all templated and placed into the van, and now it's time to screw.
The subfloor is officially done, I think. We got it all screwed in along all the joints and furniture strips underneath. It's sitting real level. It's not making any creaks or noises. I'm very, very, very happy with how it turned out.
Now that we have the subfloor done, we are starting to trace out the polyiso foam board for our wall insulation. We are using tracing paper. We are just tracing out all of these gaps and then placing them on our foam board, tracing them again, cutting them out, and placing them where they will go. Usually polyiso has a foil vapor barrier coated on it, kind of like our floor insulation was. But we got these from a roofing company. They were the only 1-inch polyiso we could find, so that is what we are using. Last weekend we left you off with the beginning of our wall insulation. Today we will be finishing that up, and we will also start boxing in our wheel wells.
We're gonna potentially also get the bed frame started to mount to the wall. That's the goal for the day.
We will also work on getting these off of the wall so we can have a recessed bed, making it a couple inches bigger. So let's get into it.
Boom.
Through many hours and a lack of filming, we have finished all of the things on our checklist. We put up all the wall insulation. We got the bed frame, head and foot of the frame mounted. We got the wheel wells completed, and yeah,
So, to elaborate a little more on what she just said we got done this weekend, like she mentioned, our bed frame support beams, we got these mounted with 3/8 bolts, and we got them mounted to the frame of the van with riv nuts. Pretty much riv nut mounts to the metal, and then you can screw the bolt into it and you have a steady, solid mounting point. So with our bed, we originally had these little metal struts right here in the Promaster. but because I am a little bit taller, we want to sleep widthways. So with removing these struts, we can recess the wall above our bed at least, and I can get a couple more inches on each side and be able to sleep more comfortably. So with these metal struts, they originally were mounted to the walls like this, like I said previously, and there was a bunch of adhesive behind them, and then it was held up by 4 weld joints. So I had to use an angle grinder to cut those 4 joints and then just cut the adhesive off from behind them, and they came off very easily. If you do want to do something like this, you will need some sort of angle grinder or something that can cut through the metal joints connecting all 4 sides.
One thing to mention with the insulation, if you're familiar with the Promaster, the wall of the van does come out here and dips back in. So it was difficult to get this insulation to be flush with the wall. What we did was we drew a slit through the high point of the metal bending, and then another slit on the inside of the top and the bottom of that bend. That created a recession and allowed us to sit the board flush with the wall. We then filled the gaps with insulation foam, just a really thin piece, and it stuck really, really well.
And to mention, on all these insulation boards, we just use the Great Stuff Pro foam as the adhesive for these as well. That stuff is really sticky and it mounts this stuff really good, and obviously we surrounded it all and sealed it in real well too.
And we definitely recommend the Pro version over the standard version. It works a lot better.
And the Pro gun as well to go with the Pro Series foam. We will link all of that down in the description.
The Pro gun does allow you to adjust the volume of the spray that comes out, so it was really great in these little slits so we could put a very small amount of insulation into these crevices. And then up here we could do a much thicker amount and control that with the gun.
So for the wheel well covers, I used 2x3s for all of the support points. And I made sure it was decently reinforced with multiple beams on the top and on the sides, because this will be holding our battery bank. We'll have 3 lithium ion batteries up here. Also, we have 1/2-inch Baltic birch plywood, surrounding it. I do have the top already mounted onto it, but I'm actually gonna need to remove the top so we can use Thinsulate to insulate the inside of this, and then I'll just place it back on. And I'll actually have to mount these to the floor as well, so I'll just mount it from the 2x3 to the subfloor after I remove that top.
This one will hold the battery bank, and this one will hold the water tank. Thanks for watching part 2 of our van build series.
Sorry we didn't get more detailed footage about what we did. We had some friends help us out, and we were kind of just knocking stuff out and kind of put the filming on the back burner. But we learned a lot. If you have any questions about any of what you just saw, don't hesitate to ask. We can give you some more detailed explanations.
And more footage of it if you would like that. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Peace.
Okay.